If you two wouldn't mind waiting here, we'd like to start by talking to your mom, dad, and grandma.
Just to get some background information.
Hello out there. We're on the air. I think we're on the air. Everybody say hi to Arnie. Arn. He's pumped. He doesn't look like it, but he's pumped. How are we doing here? This is the price of Bitcoin is ripping, so I decided I was going to get a new house. Why not? I am in the city that rhymes with fun. We got Arnie. We got Double King on today. We got the Dark King hat on in honor of the 47th, officially the 47th president of the United States. Are we okay here? Can someone just let me know that we're live and the sound is okay? We got the full setup here. We brought the Bitcoin Journey bus to the city that rhymes with fun. We good? I don't know. I'm going to assume we're okay. We're live. Okay, and you can hear me? Everything's good? Okay, thank you for that. Okay, we're good. Okay, well, here we are. Seems a little bit low. There we go. How are we feeling? I've been up since 4 a.m. 4 a.m., which was 6 + 1, 7 hours ago. Usually I'm only up for like 15 minutes in the day. No, not 15, sorry. A couple hours, but not 7 hours. This is a whole new experience for me here. I was going to pour a beer, but I decided to pour an iced coffee, and this is how much I got out of it. I don't know if it's, I put some espresso in there too. I'm just like jittery today. It's just like overstimulated. It's too much going on. But I woke up at 4. I knew this was going to happen. I felt like it was like Christmas Eve last night, and today was Christmas morning. And I woke up at 4 in the morning, and I couldn't, my balance is low on the Zap stream, and I'm not logged in on this one. I got 2 laptops going today. Usually I just have my 2 screens here, but I have 2 different laptops today. How am I going to do this? I don't know. I don't know what the play is for that. We might just run out of sats on there. So if you're watching on Zap stream right now, you could be cut off at any time. So I apologize for that. But I did see there's a fat Zap in there for Donald J. Trump, DJT, from Daniel. There we go. Okay, so that thing's working pretty good. I don't know how long it's going to last, but anyways. Woke up at 4 in the morning today, and I went to bed last night. I was helping out at the rink. We were moving some stuff around for a couple hours last night. I got home pretty late, and we had to be up at 5 today. So I hardly watched any of the election last night. It looked like a pretty big night though for the world. And I figured it was going to be, I just had a very uneasy feeling last night when I was going to bed. A feeling that I had 4 years ago. Almost the exact same feeling. I went to bed and it was looking like Trump was going to win. They pretty much called the election for Trump. He was way ahead. And then we woke up the next morning and there was a pipe that burst in Georgia. I'm pretty sure it was Georgia. And that was it. The lies began. The cover-up began. The fraud began. And I think it's pretty clear now at this point for anybody with a brain that the 2020 election was a complete scam. But that's okay. You know what? We made it. We made it for 4 years. And I truly think it had to happen. I truly think that we had to go through those last 4 years of hell to understand how bad it can get. Because speaking for myself personally, I have no notes today. I have nothing prepared. I want to watch a couple different videos that I have saved, but we're just going to pretty much talk today. And to me, we needed to go through those 4 years. Lots of us probably didn't. I didn't. Speaking personally, I did not need that in my life, especially how things played out. But I think that between 2020, when that election happened, and today, the amount of people who are in a much different mentality and have a much different view of the media, of government, of big pharma, of all the things that have been polluting our lives for so long that we are completely oblivious to. We fell asleep. Honestly, truly, we fell asleep for a lot of years, and we let it get this bad. And it didn't have to be, but it was part of the propaganda that we've been put through. And so we let the people kind of just sneak into some of these important positions within our communities, within our provinces, our states, our countries. And this was the aftermath of it. But thank God, I woke up. I tried going back to sleep. I didn't want to check my phone because as soon as I checked my phone, I knew I was going to be up for the day. So I laid in bed for about half an hour, pretty much just staring at the ceiling. And then I was like, fuck it, we're getting up. So it was like 4:20, 4:30 in the morning. Woke up and saw Trump just did a press conference about, I don't know, 3 hours before that, his winning press conference. So it was a big sigh of relief for me. And I'm sure everybody here, again, we've done a pretty good job, I think, for the last year, almost a year now, of weeding out the people who have the inability to think for themselves, the inability to see things through a logical lens, and the people with Trump derangement syndrome. I've been watching, actually I haven't been on my phone too much since this whole thing happened, but I have seen some good clips of people kind of losing their minds over this thing. But anyways, let's, sorry, chat. I figured I'd just open the show with my comments there. Wing It Wednesday. That's right, Jason. That's right. That's what we're doing today. I'm scared to take a sip of this. I put is a cold thing here. I'm way out of my league here. There's an espresso machine. Never used one of these before. So there's an iced coffee that made about a quarter of this thing, and I also put a shot of espresso in here. So I don't know what's going to happen during this show today. I don't get much espresso in my life. I see Spaceman over there, Zap 420 sats. Here's some sats for the stream in case we drop off. Thank you. So yes, once again we should have a little bit on there. It's a completely different screen. I'm gonna have to figure out how to log in afterwards on here. But anyways, let's have a somewhat normal show today. We'll get to the mempool. Let's see what's going on over there. I don't even know didn't do any metrics today. I've been on the road. We traveled all morning here. But we can do the mempool at least. This is going to be a little bit awkward for me, I think, with one screen. Okay, well, maybe not. Okay, can we see that? Yeah. Okay, so I can either look at the screen here or I can look at the mempool, but I'll look at the mempool. So we are currently at block height 869. We crossed another 1,000 blocks. 869,168. The last one was won by the F2 pool. 2 sats per V-byte, so still incredibly low. The miners are having one hell of a time right now. I saw something, and this is just me kind of ballparking here, approximate, but I saw something yesterday that said it costs approximately $85,000 to mine a Bitcoin based on the hash rate, based on the difficulty right now. It costs about $85,000 to mine one Bitcoin, and they're getting that was when it was like 68, I think. But still, there's still a very big spread between how much it's costing people to mine Bitcoin versus how much they're getting back, which to me suggests, especially now, that we're going to see some action here. And we hit an all-time high last night. I think we got to 75,000. And I don't even know what we're at now. My laptop's dying. The Zap.stream is running out of balance. My phone's at 10%. But we got some espresso here, so we should be good, right? What do we got price-wise? I can probably take this thing off the screen. 75,420. So I think that's like an all-time high, right? What was the all-time high before today? Yeah, it is. All-time high right now. That might be the first time ever on the show we've had an all-time high. So that's kind of cool. I would say. I did some nice celebrating last night. Not really, but had a couple beers at the rink. But again, I just I was thinking last night. I got home from the rink. I checked the what do you call them? The polls. See how things were looking. They were looking good. But I never really had like a big, exciting like a yell or a scream or anything like that. It was kind of weird. Maybe because we've just been kind of conditioned to expect the worst things to happen now, which is kind of sad. But we are moving into a brand new age of everything right now, and it's going to be, I think, incredible. The reason I titled this show today, "It's a Great Day for Bitcoiners," because it is. It's a great day for Bitcoiners, and I'm going to talk about that's going to be kind of the main theme. I got a bit of a thing that I want to talk about in regards to that, but and Jason's probably right here. I'm kind of watching the live chats scroll in here, but it says more of a relief than anything. That's how it feels. That's how it feels. Okay, I'm going to catch up on some of these chats here. Sorry, everybody. We got Brandon. Good afternoon, stackers. Today is a very good day, no doubt. What a day to be alive, Waro. Bitcoin now the ninth biggest asset by market cap. So that's pretty exciting. Who did they pass? I think Meta, maybe? Ninth asset by market cap. Bitcoin Buddha, also known as Spaceman over in the Zaps, feeling groovy today. Rajesh says, did we get a schedule that we are going to be on this time? Wow. Yeah, I mean, it's going to be like that this week. I'm in a different spot, and just how my mornings are going to be. I'm probably just going to do a show every day at this time for the next. It was either that or not do shows at all. So I figured, just kind of based on everything happening in the world right now, we should be doing shows. Rajesh, I like this comment. I saw this before we hopped on the air today. Says the 5th of November worked in our favor. Lucky us to be alive right now, no doubt. Not so lucky to be here selling my stash at 68K, but clearing out credit card debt is huge, I must say. I mean, that's kind of what we have to keep in mind here as we go forward. Is like you have to understand right now where we are. You have to understand 66,000, 72,000, 75,000, 125,000. In 10 years from now, there's going to be no difference between all these prices. Just where this is going to go. And yes, it's exciting for a lot of reasons why Trump won last night. And that might be part of it too. It's like he won, they've announced it, she conceded, but I'm still just expecting something to happen, right? So part of having a stoic mindset and like we'd like to be on the show, very calm and cheerful, is that you can't get too low and you can't get too high either. And today feels like one of those days where we should be very high. Trump officially won. Bitcoin keeps hitting all-time highs, and I expect it to jump a little bit higher today. MicroStrategy's ripping, Semler's ripping. But at the same time, it is what it is, right? And so 66, 75, 175, 10 years from now, it's all going to be the same. And 10 years from now, anybody who's watching the show right now, if you can figure out a way to hold on to your Bitcoin through that decade, nothing's going to matter. And so, Rajesh, you have to stay solvent, and credit card debt is the most crippling thing that's ever existed. So kind of my plan today on the show is we're going to watch a couple videos. I'm going to get through these comments here eventually. I'm going to talk about why it's such a great day for Bitcoiners. And then I'm going to give some predictions. My predictions for Trump's presidency. And I kind of came up with these in the shower before the show today, so don't expect too much. But anyways, let's keep getting through these. We got Jay, good morning. HFGR, I don't know what that means. Have fun getting rich, probably. That makes sense. Have fun getting rich. Buck 52,000, same to you, applies as I just said to Rajesh. As long as you're here now, as long as you have a decent understanding of Bitcoin and you have a little bit of it, you're going to be just fine in the future. Just fine. Hey, look at this. Bitcoin Buddha. I was so happy for the Trump victory that I sent out 47 sats to all my friends and followers last night on nostr. What a boy. That's a pretty nice gesture. I like that. We got AD in the house. Good morning. Zach. Remember the 5th of November. Isn't it crazy? I was thinking about that as well last night about that's from V for Vendetta, right? I'm pretty sure. I watched it a while ago, but the thing that's weird for me is I'm pretty sure they predicted something in 2020, like what happened, the pandemic, right? And then yesterday's election ended up being the 5th of November. And I truly believe that the 5th of November is going to be one of those times in history. You know, while we're alive, there's still going to be people that are sour about Trump forever. But I think in 100 years from now, once everything's kind of been washed away and people can see things clearly, and we have some accurate history now because of Bitcoin, I think this is going to be one of those days that people remember. Yesterday, just how it was the day that everything shifted back, right? And I think that that's the main takeaway for the election. Talking about it on the way up today with Bridge, we had about 3.5 hours on the road, some very icy roads today. But she said, how come you're so excited about Trump? Like, it's probably going to hurt our dollar here in Canada. You know, it doesn't really have too much of an impact on our day-to-day life. But I said, it's not so much the policies that are going to affect us. It's probably going to actually hurt Canada in the short term, unless you hold Bitcoin, which we do. But aside from that, it's just the society aspect of things. Like, I remember supporting Trump back in 2016. And I almost felt like I was like about to be banished from society. Like that's how far we've come from there in terms of it just being okay. Like, and we've swung so far to the left between, you know, you put the money aside from for a second and you think of like the men and women's sports, the men going into women's bathrooms, the open borders and what kind of impact that's having on communities. And it's all just kind of become normalized because they had the blowhorn. They had the audience. They had the influence. They were on the news every single day normalizing all this bullshit, which we know is bullshit. And I think that deep down, most people know that too. But they've just had such a blowhorn to be able to talk about this stuff and normalize it. And I don't want to get too far into the weird stuff, but you know exactly what I mean. And so I do think that we're now in a societal shift where, okay, we're the majority now. We know that. We thought that back in 2020, and we probably were, but people need to be told that by their TVs and the polls. And so I think that today is the shift back to a somewhat normal world, which that's how it's going to affect Canada, and that's how it's going to affect the rest of the world. And I did a second part of the show yesterday, and I would highly encourage people, if you're watching this right now, I would highly encourage you to go back to sign up for the Living in the Future membership and go back and watch the last 2 full episodes that we did, because we did the first 2 parts of the multi-generational wealth. We talked about key management, leaving crumbs behind, procrastination, how to counteract that. And then yesterday we talked about going all in on Bitcoin and really leaning in on it instead of worrying about, you know, the politics, the election, all that kind of stuff, and the fiat world, just kind of leaving that behind. And I gave some actionable advice for that, but I also talked about some stuff that I think has been going on for a while now in terms of the governments and in terms of the Bitcoin stuff and how it all ties together and how it's kind of worked out perfectly for where we are right now. So I would say, and this is, again, it's not me trying to get $5 off of you. You could sign up for the membership. There's a 7-day free trial on it. You can cancel it after tomorrow, but go back and watch those 2 videos that we did. And the first one we talked about getting non-KYC Bitcoin and key management stuff. And then yesterday we talked about going all in on Bitcoin, what that means, living on a Bitcoin standard, how to do that, and how to just understanding how valuable Bitcoin is. And how we can change our lifestyle and change our mindset around things. And we also talked about some stuff that can't be talked about here on the public stuff. So anyways, I just noticed that we hit 80 80 people live here. So that's a new milestone. I don't think we've even been in the 70s before. So it's good. We're everything seems to be going our way. Everything seems to be coming up Bitcoiners. But anyways, going back to the 5th of November, it is a little bit weird that they're able to predict pretty much everything that's happened, which makes you think maybe this is a simulation. But either way, we're back in the good part of the simulation now, if you believe that. We got Jason in the chat today. We got Nick. Good afternoon, I guess. Good afternoon. Trump victory. Yeah, I've been noticing this too, and this is I think we're at the stage now. Well, we are. I can say this confidently now, but we're at the stage now where you got your friends and your family calling you about Bitcoin. I had 2 or 3 people yesterday. A couple called and one texted me to buy some Bitcoin for him. But he said, besides Bitcoin, what should I buy? Should I get any of the crypto stuff? Should I get Doge? And obviously, you know my answer to that. But it does seem like we're leaving all the altcoins behind right now. Ethereum especially. If you look at the Bitcoin Ethereum chart right now, it's crazy. But I do think that the new altcoin season, I don't think we're going to get an altcoin season this year. I think it's going to be, they're going to stay the same. There might be some that run up and crash down quick. But I think the version of the altcoins that people are going to be attracted to this bull run is MicroStrategy and Semler Scientific. So just because it's going to be so easy for people, right? With crypto, with altcoins, think about how hard it is for somebody like your average person to buy it. Even if their friend told them to buy something. Like I remember back in 2021 or 2020, whenever it was, getting into alts, and I literally had to pay $500 US for somebody to teach me how to buy crypto. And that's it. It wasn't like we have within the Living the Future community. It was like I paid this membership $500 US, and I could go watch videos of how to do this, how to buy it, how to store it, how to stake it. And it was just like, it was a nightmare. And if people didn't have 20 hours to sit around and learn how to do that, then they were just kind of out of it, or they had to get somebody to do it for them. But the reason I think MicroStrategy and Semler are going to be the version of altcoins this bull run is because anybody can do it. Everybody has money in their investment accounts. Everybody has a direct line with their financial advisor. And so I think it's just going to be, that's going to be their exposure to Bitcoin for this cycle anyways. And then they'll figure out that they're actually not holding the Bitcoin, and then they'll get eventually into it. But it's going to be a good gateway, I think, into Bitcoin. But yeah, alt season, I don't think is coming this year, unfortunately, for a lot of people who have been holding on to their altcoins, waiting for it to go up to where it was before. And I just don't think it's going to happen. So if you are somebody out there, and I know that there's been a lot of people within this community who have sold their altcoins for Bitcoin already, and I think they're very happy with that decision, I would say full bore, exact same thing. If you have any alts, especially Ethereum, just get rid of them. Swap them for Bitcoin. Bitcoin's going to be the one. And that was kind of what I talked about I was just talking about the private videos we did this week and last, but that was kind of my idea for the first show. Again, this is I'm telling you, go in there. You can sign up for 7 days for free. You can cancel it after. I don't care. I just want people to have this information, and I can't talk about it on YouTube. But one of the things I talked about was actually, I'm not going to say it. Sorry. I didn't mean to tease you there, but just go check it out, because it's good for tax-free stuff. It's good for getting Bitcoin, and it's good for getting non-KYC Bitcoin. You cover all 3 things with the strategy that I formulated. Ian, good morning. We got Mogens Vogna. Good. Oh, they're talking about the audio there. Sorry, I'm way behind here. Looking better, loud and clear. ABC 212. Trump owes Bitcoiners for the win. We swung the vote. Probably had something to do with it. I think Elon has a lot of we owe Elon a lot of thanks. But at the same time, it is honestly my opinion that Trump won the 2020 actually, I shouldn't be, I don't know. I don't need to be giving my channel any unnecessary flags here, but I think it was a very poorly run election back in 2020. I think that it was, the real results were different than what we were told. But anyways, Bitcoiners absolutely played a big part in it. Elon played a big part in it. I mean, you just look at Trump's team. You got Trump, you got Elon, you got Vivek, you got JD Vance, you got RFK, you got Tulsi Gabbard. I mean, who else is in there? Howard Lutnick. They're all Bitcoiners. They're all builders. And Peter Thiel's in there too. It's like there's no way. It's honestly like a dream team. And if you understand the importance of energy and building for the future and innovation, like we could not have a better team right now running America and running the world for that matter. Because I really believe in going back to what I was talking about there a while ago. I do think that this Bitcoin, Trump, that team of builders, it is going to spread worldwide. And what made me think of that was the cure will spread worldwide. I think the problem is fiat. I think the cure is Bitcoin, and that's going to spread across the world. It is what the hell happened there? It is a global currency for everybody. So, Ed, good morning. And yes, day one, free Ross. Well, we're going to talk about this in a bit. Sorry. Change of scenery. Yes, I'm in the city that rhymes with fun, Regina, Saskatchewan, for a little while, not very long. Ian says, loving the time for today. Suits me fine to log in and watch with a beer. I know. I kind of wish that I did afternoon shows because I wouldn't mind having a beer once in a while as well. But I like my morning routine. It seems like we got a lot more people in here than usual. So selfishly, it's probably better to do in the afternoon, but we're going to stick with the mornings. Carson, good to see you, my friend. Matt is in the house. Look at this. We got everybody in the chat today. Ross has got to be so happy, no doubt. ED said a prayer. I think there was a lot of prayers being thrown up yesterday. It really felt like that to me. That's the kind of main feeling that I had around this election, was that it really seemed spiritual. It seemed like there was very clearly, they weren't even trying to hide it anymore. Like, I think this is what set a lot of people off. And one of the things that it really stood out for me was at one of Kamala's rallies, there was somebody that yelled out, Jesus is Lord, something along those lines. And she mocked them. She said, I think you're at the wrong rally. So she told Christians, or whatever religion this was, I'm guessing Christians, that they don't belong there, and that the Christians are at the rally down the road at Trump's. So to me, this election did feel very spiritual. And I think that there was a lot of people praying yesterday. Whether you believe, one person can make a difference, I don't. I just think that it is the societal norms that have shifted, and the good people are back in charge. And I mean, that's a subjective thing, but I mean, you can look at what one side has done very clearly. You can see it very clearly between 2016, 2020, what happened during that, and what happened during 2020 to 2024. It's subjective in the good and bad, but I don't think it's subjective in the terms of good versus evil. So ABC 212, that's a good question. What makes this one more legit if the last one wasn't, though? Well, it really depends on what you subscribe to, what theory you subscribe to. I think that this whole thing has been a long time coming. And again, I started the show saying, I think that we had to live through these last 4 years for people to really understand what could go wrong when we stop caring about that, when we stop caring about who we're electing, when we stop caring about what happens in our schools, when we stop caring what happens in the hospitals. We've seen what can happen now. And a lot of people are much more awake, not woke, but awake to the evil in the world. First thing I did was check the Bitcoin price. Yeah, I think I did that first too, and it was at like 74,000. I was like, okay, well, looks like you won. Because if not, it would probably be back at 58K. AD, it's what I'm saying. We had to go through the last 4 years, makes the win more impactful in history, and it wouldn't be the same if you won in 2020. I completely agree with that. Rick's Remakes. Hey, when linking up a hardware wallet, Passport with Sparrow and attempting to send first transaction, what do you think are the most common mistakes? Anything to be aware of? No, I don't think so. Whenever I help somebody set up a hardware wallet, I always have them send a small amount to the Sparrow wallet first, like say 100,000 sats. And I mean, that's going to go through for sure, because you're sending it from wherever your Jade, or not Jade, but like, let's say a Trezor or a Ledger, it's going to show up in your Sparrow wallet for sure. But the thing you have to do there is just send some back, or send it all back, because you have to make sure that that connection is made between the Passport and the Sparrow wallet. Otherwise, your Bitcoin is going to be stuck there. And I mean, you could probably access it if you had the private key. You could probably access it, but I think for the most part, without spending too much time and energy on it, I would say just do a couple test transactions of smaller amounts to make sure that that connection is solid and you have the process down, and everything's good to go. Because the last thing you want there is to send a bunch of Bitcoin to your Passport and your Sparrow wallet, and then you can't access it. So just start small. And I mean, if you are somebody who's out there and you don't really want to take that on by yourself, you can reach out to me. And we got 3 or 4 people within the community of Living in the Future who are going to be helping people with this kind of stuff. And they're just as competent, if not more competent than I am. So if you need any help, we haven't really announced anything officially yet, but if you are somebody out there with any amount of Bitcoin and you're thinking about moving it from a Ledger, a Trezor, your phone wallet from an exchange, and you have a Passport or a cold card, it is just nice to have somebody who's done it dozens or hundreds of times walking you through it, just to make sure, because there is a lot of different things to watch out for there. But it's an investment. I mean, you can pay somebody to help you with it, walk you through it, or you can invest a lot of your time and try to figure it out yourself. So if you are interested in that, in getting some help with protecting your Bitcoin, you can just go to bitcoinjourney.ca and there's a link on there, or you can email me at 88sats@proton.me. All my contact info is always right underneath the show. Speaking of that, these dark king hats, we sold, I think 3 or 4 of them. 2 people paid with Bitcoin, and I think 1 person got it on the website. So if you want one of these were the originals. We front ran Elon and Trump with the black with black on black. So 21% off if you want one of these hats, king hats. You can either buy them on the website, knggolf.ca, and I think the code was Dark King, DARKKNG. Discount code 21% off, or just shoot me an email and if you want to pay in Bitcoin instead. We prefer that, obviously. I guess we got 82 folks in the chat today. Zapstream not doing very well. I think I turned people off there when I said it was going to die any moment. Zapstream's hurting today. Sad. Oh well. Okay, well, let's keep going here. I figured this would kind of just be a chat kind of show, but I do have a couple things to talk about, so I can't get to all these comments today. Kyle LeBlanc, that's a new face. Good to see you, my friend. That looks like Infinity over 21 million. That's a good profile pic. Best case scenario so far, absolutely. I really think that we've been talking about that forever. It's like we're exactly where we're supposed to be. I know it's been a grind for these last couple of years. We're up 150% Bitcoin wise, but it's been a grind. It's been chopping up and down, up and down. Lots of positive things. The hash rate's way up. There's countries adopting it. There's companies, public companies, Microsofts, and it just hasn't been doing much. But I said this is exactly where we need to be. It's exactly where we're supposed to be right now. And I think that this bull run, this price is just the very, very beginning of it, especially now that Trump is in power. HP 370 says you could just never pay the credit card off. I mean, that's a bold strategy, but there's people that do it. I don't recommend that. It's pretty good, actually, even though it only filled a quarter of the cup. Pretty good. I'm pretty buzzed right now. Buzzing. Noah. Haven't seen Noah on YouTube. She's usually over in Zap stream. Hi, Jor. Hi, all. We are winning. We are absolutely winning. Tesla's ripping? Shit. I sold my Tesla yesterday. Of course. Bought MicroStrategy, though. What else we got here? Zach says I was going to bet on the election, but no need. We're all up today. Yeah, that was kind of my thoughts, too. I thought... I'm not a big gambler myself. I like betting on golf once in a while. We actually do. Where are you? We actually do Bitcoin golf pools for all the major events. Masters. We even did it for the players last year too. Masters, PGA, US Open, and the British Open. We bet Bitcoin on it. So that's kind of my extent of gambling. But my gamble was Bitcoin, and it looks like it's paying off. And it hasn't even started yet. That's the crazy thing. I know everybody thinks, they announce something, it's going to flip up to $300,000 tomorrow. No, there's a bunch of, I'm sure there's a bunch of big money that's planning something, or it was kind of ready to go, but it takes time. It's not something you just flip a switch and you own a bunch of Bitcoin. Think about how difficult it is for people to buy Bitcoin, right? And the only thing that we see is the exchange price. And you know that the big money is not buying their Bitcoin on the exchanges, right? So the only thing that we're seeing move out the price right now is people like us, like retail. And again, we are kind of at the point now. I thought it was going to be at 100K, but I've already had two or three people reach out in the last 24 hours to get Bitcoin, get me to buy them Bitcoin or whatever. So I think it is already starting for the retail side anyways, but it usually takes the institutional, the big money, a little bit longer to catch up here. Mats, can you show your golf swing? I'd like to rate it. I mean, you could just go to the channel here. I got a bunch of shorts on the video. It's not really recommended for YouTube algorithms, but I don't really care. I just like, whatever I'm interested in. And golf is a big one. So you can go to the channel. There's a bunch of shorts. There's a bunch of shorts of Arnie. There's a bunch of shorts of golf stuff. I'm a lefty. You could rate my swing. You could do it live on the show. I'm not going to show it. I feel like that'd be a little bit egotistical. But you can check it out and rate it out of 10. Where's Duels? Look at this. We got so many new faces in the chat. I don't know if they just never been here before or they're just coming out of the woodworks here, but where's Duels? It is a good day. It's a great day. Rick, 62 people watching, 80 now, and only 18 likes. Sad. As Trump would say in caps, sad. We got 8% left on this phone here. Let's see how we're making out. I kind of like these afternoon shows. I like the morning ones too, but these are a lot of people here today. 30, 35, yeah, that's horrible. So maybe we just have a bunch of YouTube random people in here. But either way, if you're watching this right now, it costs nothing to do. And it really doesn't help the channel. But it'll get you some good karma. If you really want to make a difference, head over to Zap.stream and send some sats there. Or you can send some to our favorite guy right here. That's Arnie's QR code. That's a much better version of the like button. Okay. AD says, people don't realize how hard we just won is beyond Trump. I completely agree with that. And once people get past their propaganda, brainwash, Trump derangement syndrome, I think they're going to see the same thing play out. JJ, you should talk about what fiat is, because most people do not understand what is a fiat. I mean, fiat's pretty simple to explain. It's money that's backed by nothing, that can be printed out of thin air, and a very small group of people have access to that. And that explains why the world has gone to shit in terms of our inflation, in terms of our wages, in terms of our housing prices, in terms of everything. It all comes back to fiat. Every issue you could think of. Oh, I keep thinking someone's coming in here. They'd be on the show. But I mean, yeah, I think most people who are here every day know what fiat is, so we don't need to spend any time talking about that. Diesel, look at that. Good morning. Am I having deja vu here, or did we already look through this comment from Noah? Okay, let's get to a video here that I want to watch. You good, man? You good? Love that chicken from Popeyes. Okay, I want to watch this video because, oh no, this wasn't the one. Did I not send that one? Hold on. Hey, you got to stop that. Well, that was awkward. I think I spent about a minute there talking to myself because I wasn't on the screen here, and I came back and we got shut off. So I want to show this video here. This is a clip from, I think, two and a half years ago now. And the reason why I want to watch this today is because it's very relevant. Trump just got into presidency in the US, and he's been talking about the national stockpile of Bitcoin for the US as a treasury reserve asset. And so that's something we can look forward to for the US. But I want to show you this clip because this is, again, from 2.5 years ago. This is in front of the Canadian government. This is a Bitcoiner. He owns a restaurant chain here in Canada. And he was talking to I think it was the finance committee about Bitcoin. But the first 2 minutes of it are kind of explaining Bitcoin. But then he talks about the significance of Bitcoin as a reserve asset like the US is about to do. So hopefully in the near future, we can get somebody who doesn't wear diapers in the Canadian government in the prime minister position and can understand the importance of this, what's happening. But until then, we just got to watch and reflect on what could have been. So this is pre-budget consultations in advance of the 2022 budget. And this is a Bitcoiner explaining Bitcoin and the importance of a national stockpile of Bitcoin. So let's make sure that we can see this. It's going to be a little bit tricky, I think. All right, let's try this.
I believe Ali Hammam for 5 minutes. Mr. Hammam.
Yes, ladies and gentlemen of the Finance Committee, thank you for having me on. My name is Ali Hammam. I'm the co-founder of Tahini's Restaurants, a chain with 9 restaurants in Ontario and growing. My family and I grew up in Egypt and decided to move to Canada after the Arab Spring of 2011. My father was a hardworking math teacher and had worked his entire life only to watch his money that he had in the Egyptian banks get devalued by 65% against the US dollar over the course of a few years. Inflation is a problem that's affecting all Canadians right now, businesses and families alike. Even though we won't see the debasement against the US dollar, which is also debasing at a fast rate, but we can see the value of our money go down against housing, education for our kids, a vacation for our families, a good steak, our grocery bills, and our retirements. I'm here to propose to the committee the idea of embracing a new technology of money called Bitcoin. It's fixed in supply, which gives it integrity. It's digital in nature, which makes it native to our modern digital economy. It's secured by energy and the largest computer network in history, which makes it safe and reliable. It's decentralized and not controlled by any one person, company, or country, which makes it apolitical. We're in a tough yet critical time in Canada, but I'm here to be constructive, not pessimistic. I'm here to offer to the committee ideas and positive changes that we can make to grow our country's productivity. Our leading industries in Canada are energy and finance. Both can be integrated with Bitcoin. Let's not focus all of our energy on trying to fix an old system. Instead, let's build and integrate with a new parallel system as well. With Bitcoin, we can do that. In the energy sector, we can sell the excess energy to the Bitcoin network for 30 to 40 cents a kilowatt hour. That's a lot better than letting it go to waste or selling it to the US for 3 cents a kilowatt hour. So let's offer financial incentives to energy producers to mine Bitcoin with this excess energy. With our finance industry, we can integrate all of our banks, fintech companies, insurance companies, and tech companies into this leading edge technology of modern finance. This will not hinder or hurt the old way we do finance. This is a parallel system that can be built on top of the old one to improve it. We can do this by providing clear regulations to the Bitcoin industry, better accounting rules that would help nourish innovation, not stifle it. We can do this while still protecting Canadian citizens against scams and Ponzi schemes in the wider crypto industry. The Bitcoin network is being worked on by the brightest engineers all over the world, from Canada to the US to Europe to Australia. This is mainly a Western technology, and we should all be proud of that. Every software engineer and Bitcoin company is working on making the network harder, stronger, and faster. And when they succeed, it benefits everyone on the network. Let's work on becoming the country that benefits from this global cooperation. A good country example that's doing this right now is El Salvador. They recently did everything that I'm suggesting today to this committee. They are mining Bitcoin with renewable geothermal energy. They have made Bitcoin legal tender and embraced the technology to help bank all of their citizens. Today, more Salvadorians have Bitcoin wallets than they have bank accounts. More money is flowing into the hands of local citizens than to intermediaries like Western Union and Visa that used to suck the country and its citizens dry. North of $400 million per year is going to the Salvadorians. This past week, an Arizona state senator proposed a bill that would make Bitcoin legal tender in the state. Florida, Texas, Wyoming, and New York are passing legislation that is friendly and inviting to Bitcoin companies. Miami is even buying Bitcoin on the city's balance sheet. The world is moving fast, and we should move with it. The countries that will move first will reap the biggest rewards. Let's beat them to it and make Bitcoin legal tender here in Canada alongside our proud Canadian dollar. And my last proposition to the committee is let's borrow $10 billion from the Bank of Canada and buy Bitcoin with it. Our country's balance sheet is in shambles, and we need to strengthen it now more than ever. And let's be honest, what's another $10 billion after the years of 2020 and 2021? Thank you very much.
Well, thank you, Mr. Hammam, and to all our witnesses for your opening statements.
right? $10 billion back in 2022, the price would have been around 20,000 bucks. We would have been pretty good. We would have been sitting pretty good as Canadians here, and any country for that matter. I think that any country right now who is refusing to do this is going to start. He proposed it in 2022. I think a lot of people have been talking about it before that, but it's going to start. It's going to happen. And when you have that kind of inflows coming into Bitcoin, when you have that amount of long-term holders of Bitcoin, because that's the thing that's going to be different for the next decade than it was the last one, is that we're not talking about people like me or you or the average person anymore, because we're very emotional. You know, we learn some about Bitcoin, we buy it no matter what the price is. And then some people who have a little bit less conviction over Bitcoin, it drops and they sell it, or it goes up and they sell it at a profit. We're very emotional investors, retail investors, very emotional. But when you have companies like MicroStrategy, that Bitcoin's never going to move. Summer Scientific, that Bitcoin's never going to move. El Salvador, never going to move. And when the US, when Trump gets into the White House in January, it's going to be the exact same thing, except they're going to be on steroids. Right? So it's a much different dynamic when you're talking about retail, very emotional, versus institutions, the BlackRocks, the countries, the MicroStrategies. That Bitcoin's never going to move. And with an asset like Bitcoin, with the truly fixed supply, that changes everything. And so going back to what we were talking about before in terms of 66,000, 72,000, these are going to be a joke in a decade from now, a joke. And you're going to give anything to get to be back where you are right now, to front run these countries, these companies. And so that was one part I wanted to talk about. But the other one there is, I feel like we're going to move back into a world where people like him are going to be the ones making decisions. We've gone decades of the dumbest, most corrupt, greediest, slimiest people in government. That's who have been making decisions on our behalf and signing bills into legislation that we don't necessarily agree with, but it was all kind of happening behind our backs. And so we're going to move into a new era here, a new age where it's people like that guy. I forget his name. His restaurant's called Tahiti's, I believe. But when you have somebody with common sense, with logic, with a half-functioning brain, making decisions for your country, especially here in Canada, where we have an absolute abundance of energy. And if you connect that to the Bitcoin network, everything changes. And when you have idiots and children and reptiles in government who are against that, who prefer centralization, who are owned by the centralized parties, never happens, never going to happen. So we're out of that now. And I think the US is going to be the first mover in that field. And everything changes going forward here. It's truly incredible how this thing's going to play out. All right. Too many comments here. I'm not used to, I mean, it's usually pretty busy in here, but not like this. Christopher, good morning. Good afternoon, I mean. Noah says the simulation is real. Numbers don't lie. I mean, I'm not disagreeing with you. Alt-season coin will be coming. I disagree with that. I don't think the people are, I think people are too educated now. The people who are putting money in, I think they're too educated. There's been too much come out. Bitcoin's going to just be the one that moves because there's so much capital flowing into it. And not only the capital flowing into it, but the investments, the venture capital, the institutional, the MicroStrategies. There's just so much, not only, again, not the investment part of things, but the investment in advancing it and growing the adoption. Because now that these big players have skin in the game, they want Bitcoin to succeed. And so there's going to be a new marketing department. There has been for the last year from BlackRock. And it's going to be attracting all of the talent from the fiat world, from the alts, from everything. So I don't see it. I could be wrong, of course, but I just don't see it. Daniel says MicroStrategy is the bubble coin. I think that's where a lot of the easy money, the quick money is going to flow into. And it's going to be very volatile. And that's what Saylor wants, because the more volatile it is, the more it fits into his strategy, because he's got options, right? You got to keep that in mind. He's not a one-trick pony. He can issue debt. He can sell stocks. He can issue new stocks. And the amount of financing he's getting for absolutely absurd rates. And maybe for people who aren't up to speed with MicroStrategy, maybe this is because we have more people than usual in here today. So basically what Saylor's doing with MicroStrategy right now, I mean, most people, the average person has no idea what convertible debt is. And even for myself, I had to go and look, like somebody who went through 6 years of the fiat school system. I did my CPA. I had a minor in economics, and still this stuff, you know, the average person does not comprehend what's happening here. And especially, you know, myself, I had to look in to see exactly what was going on here. And so basically what convertible debt is that Saylor reaches out to his friends, and his friends, for the most part, don't have access to Bitcoin, or they're either not able to buy Bitcoin or they don't want to, right? That's a lot of the big money there. That's where they're at. So they use MicroStrategy as the vehicle for towards Bitcoin very easily, right? And a lot of public companies, they have certain rules and regulations within their shareholder documents that they can invest in certain things. And Bitcoin obviously is not one of those things that they can invest in, but equities are. So what Saylor's doing is he's basically saying, hey, I'm holding Bitcoin. You can own a portion of this company, and what we need from you is some money. So think about somebody on the other side of this. They have maybe, let's say $1 billion. They give Saylor $1 billion in convertible debt. And what does that convertible debt mean? Because we know what debt is, right? You lend somebody money, you pay them back with an interest rate on it. But convertible means that at a certain date or a certain thing that triggers the convertibility, they're actually able to go buy shares in MicroStrategy. So Saylor's getting this very cheap debt. Like a lot of I think there's one that's even 0% interest on it. So it's between like 0% and 1.5% rates. That's what he's lending. That's what he's getting money for. And so just quickly to compare that to the return, this is very long-term stuff, but the return on Bitcoin, I think, has been 45, 50% annualized over the last couple of years or decade maybe. So he's paying 1% max. He's receiving Bitcoin, which is earning him 50% average per year. Some days it's higher, or some years it's higher, some years it's lower. But the convertibility aspect of that is that when somebody lends him money, they kind of lock in a price. So let's say MicroStrategy is $200 when they issue the debt, and it goes up to $2,000. The company who lent Saylor money, they can say, okay, well, this is the convertible. We'd like to convert our debt into shares. And they get access to that $200 versus the $2,000. So as soon as they redeem that, if they keep some shares, if they sell some shares, that's where they make their money off of that. They're not making their money off the interest that Saylor's paying them, which is almost nothing. But they're making their money off of the gain in share price when they get it at a much lower rate, the agreed upon price before they issue the debt. And so Saylor's taking all this money. He's buying all this Bitcoin. They have $250,000 or 250,000 Bitcoin so far, and they plan to spend $42 billion over these next 3 years on Bitcoin. And if you understand the scarcity, if you understand how hard it's going to be for anybody else to catch them, nobody's ever going to catch MicroStrategy. And people can easily buy into that with their stock portfolio, their equity allocations. So that's why I think MicroStrategy, and just where we are right now, aside from the Bitcoin stuff, like nobody understands that at all. Like if you took a random poll of like 1 million people, 1 million random people, 5 people might know what's going on there, who MicroStrategy is, what they're doing, why it's important. So just realize, just understand where we are right now and how much of an opportunity you have in front of you here. If you do this properly. Rajesh, I agree with this. Crypto is the shit we got to walk through to understand the value of Bitcoin. Absolutely. Buck52 says I felt robbed of my Bitcoin when I bought alts. Yeah, exactly. That's and it's only going to get worse. The average income in Canada, I think, is about 65, 70K. And I haven't talked about this for a while on the show. But like, if you think about the average income, let's say it's 70 grand. I actually went through a whole spreadsheet of, see if I can find it. We got nothing to do today, right? Other than celebrate. See if I can find this chart. Because I basically looked at the average salary, and then how long it would take an average Canadian to purchase one Bitcoin. I used to do a lot more spreadsheets. I should get back to the spreadsheets, I think. Some good stuff in here. Okay, here it is. I don't know. I'm going to have to figure out. The, okay, well, let's just walk through this. Okay, there it is. I see it. Okay, how do I bring this up? This is the spreadsheet talking about how hard it is for people to buy Bitcoin. And when you look at this, the point of me showing this right now is to help you understand how valuable Bitcoin is and how hard it's going to be for anybody out there to get to one Bitcoin, which goes against British HODL's advice there. But anyways, this is the spreadsheet that I came up with. This is very basic numbers. There's no like actual data here. So don't look too far into this. This is just very approximate. It's just to prove a point. So the average salary here in Canada, let's say it's $80,000. Taxes, 30 grand right off the hop. Doesn't even touch your bank account. Are we still alive? Just hang on a sec. I can only look at one screen at a time. There, okay, we're good. So taxes, 30 grand. House payments, I think I took $2 grand a month. So that's either rent or mortgage. I think that's incredibly low for a lot of people. So this number's probably higher, but let's say 24,000 bucks on your house. I said $800 a month for car, fuel, and insurance. That's probably also low for a lot of people, depending on how new your vehicle is. Food, I took 400 bucks a month. Property tax, 4 grand. That's probably low as well. Utilities, 200 bucks a month, also probably low. So that leaves about $5,200 after expenses for the average Canadian. And I'd say also, most people aren't making $80,000 here in Canada. So that's 5,200 bucks you have left over. That's like after your bare minimum, your basic needs pretty much. You got 5,200 bucks at the end of it. Most people take a trip. That's like their reward for working 365 days a year. It's a fucking joke. But that's not the point of this. So this when Bitcoin was 90 grand. So let's bump this up to now 102,000 bucks. 19 years. That's how long it would take for the average Canadian at current Bitcoin price to get to one Bitcoin. 19 and a half years. So the point of that, though, is just to help people understand how scarce Bitcoin is and how hard it's going to be for the average person to get to one Bitcoin. So if you're out there and you have like 20 million sats, if you got 30 million sats, okay, so let's just do that. Let's say that somebody here in Canada at zero, let's say they wanted to get to 25 million sats, 1/4 of a Bitcoin. So let's take that number and we'll divide it by 4. for the average Canadian, with very conservative numbers here. Oh, I'm not even sharing the screen. Sorry about that. So I took the 102, I divided it by 4, which is like 25 million sats, 1/4 of a Bitcoin. It would take a Canadian, the average Canadian, 5 years at current prices to get to 20 million sats, 25 million sats, 1/4 of a Bitcoin. And that's assuming that they have cash flow after everything. That's assuming that the price hasn't gone up. That's assuming that they didn't panic sell or either up or down their Bitcoin. 5 years to get to 25 million sats. So just appreciate how early you are and pay very close attention to your Bitcoin. And I mean, if you got to spend a couple $100, even $1,000 on a hardware device, on a advisor to help you with it, like, it's priceless information, truly. You cannot put a price on protecting your Bitcoin right now. Whatever you have, 10 million sats, 20 million sats. If you have more than that, you should do that today, is look into a better way to protect it. So what I would say to that for people, start with, this is from my perspective. This is obviously quite biased, but what I would do is I'd sign up for the Living in the Future community. You're going to get to talk to Bitcoiners. You're going to get to learn from Bitcoiners. You're going to get resources on all these different categories within Bitcoin. And then start there, get a hardware device. You can either ask people questions within there, or you can hire somebody within the community to help you with it. It's nice because as a Bitcoiner, I know how lonely it is when you first get into it. And I also know how hard it is to trust people. And so what I'm trying to do here with our community is I've known, I can personally attest to the people that are helping with this, that they're extremely knowledgeable. Again, some are more knowledgeable than me. And so I have no issues recommending them. And the thing that you have to keep in mind with Bitcoin is it's very hard to find people that you can trust. So, I mean, if you're somebody new to the show, maybe not, but if you've been watching the show for a while, I feel like there's an inherent trust there. And that's the people that you want helping you with this kind of stuff. When you're dealing with your literal multi-generational wealth, that's what the course is called. And so if you do have 10 million sats, 20 million sats, 50 above that, strongly consider watching that multi-generational wealth series that we're doing right now. $5 a month. You learn one thing from it. It could be the difference between you having your Bitcoin in 20 years from now and you not having it. So you have to take this stuff seriously. You absolutely have to take this stuff seriously, because no one is going to do it for you. And Zapstream has cut off. Lasted quite a while, actually. RIP Zapstream. Okay, we're at 1:08 already for time wise. I'm gonna buzz through a few comments here, and then I want to talk about a couple more things. Timber Crasher, good to see you, my friend. Dozers can thank Elon. What, did Doge pump or something? I didn't even look. Shipcoiners should sell for Bitcoin today, not tomorrow, not next week. Any altcoins you have, swap them for Bitcoin. It's so easy. You don't have to spend any money. Just understand the fact that the majority of those alts are going to zero against Bitcoin. So whatever you can get from them today, if it's $50 worth of Bitcoin, if it's $200 worth of Bitcoin, swap all of your alts for Bitcoin today. Okay, so this is what kind of triggered that. But Diesel said, what's the average annual income? And in that projection that I used 80. And Jets said it's about 60,000. So I think I underestimated my costs, and I think I overestimated the income there. And it still would take the average Canadian 20 years to get one Bitcoin. Hey, sup, it's Adriel tuning in from Winnipeg. Well, hopefully we didn't miss you. I'm 45 minutes behind in the chat. But it's good to see you. It's good to see you, my fellow Manitoban. We got Dan from Ireland. Dan the King. Had a late start today, and when you're self-employed, you can do this. I mean, when you're self-employed, I could probably have a beer right now too. The fridge is right there. Should we? Should we? Trump pump, absolutely. We called this on the show a while ago. Trump's going to take credit for the Bitcoin. And you know what? It's a big part of it, truly. Because there's a lot of big money that's going to have a lot more faith in Bitcoin now that Trump's in, showing, you know, what's going to happen with it. So Trump's definitely going to play a part in what's coming here in the next couple months. But it probably would have happened either way. That's just how Bitcoin's built. Trump's going to accelerate it, and we're going to call it the Trump pump. Rick says Kamala mocking Christians was a huge mistake, and then she tried to make up for it by making church appearances in black churches and talking probably in a different accent than she does. ABC, this is a good point. I think it's worth talking about this. ABC 212 says Elon has handlers too, brah. Probably. I think Elon's biggest handler is, or I shouldn't say handler. I don't think that Elon necessarily is a handler. I think he relies on a lot of parties, because if you look at Tesla and if you look at Space Force, and how do they make money? Tesla sells products, yes, but how does not Space Force? What's this thing called? SpaceX. How does that make money? How do you build rockets, send them into space, land them? Where does the money come from? So it comes from the government. The government, Trump's government, was Elon's biggest contractor. Elon was the biggest contractor, I think, in the government when Trump was there. And the weird thing for me is, like, Trump invented Space Force, and this is something we talked about in the second part of the show yesterday, how this all connects in the private show, which is living in the future. But we talked about, like, think about it. Who created Space Force? Who's funding Elon, SpaceX? Who wrote a book about Bitcoin as a national security defense? Where did he come from? Space Force? Do you not think that this whole thing, and if you listen to some other high-ranking members of Space Force and in the U.S. military, how they talk about Bitcoin, I know it's not ever on the mainstream news, but if you actually use your own time, your own ears, your own eyes, your logic, you can start connecting dots to maybe this whole thing isn't very random. Maybe this thing isn't just one big coincidence. Maybe this thing has been thought up and planned with military precision for many years now. Maybe. I'm not saying that that's what I believe, but I'm saying it's a possibility. And I think that if you automatically write that off because it doesn't make sense in your head, I think you're doing yourself a major disservice. Because that's what life is. That's how you ended up here as a Bitcoiner, willing to have an open mind about things, connecting dots, using logic, and not being afraid to go against the grain. Tom says, if it wasn't for the last 4 years, I wouldn't have found Bitcoin. Amen to that. Been saying that since day one of this channel. You could say whatever you want about Trump. I don't give a shit. But Trump is the reason I got into Bitcoin. And so I have a lot of thanks to give to him. Because if it wasn't for Trump, I never would have known about Hollywood. I never would have known how fake the news was. I knew it was bad, but I didn't realize it was this bad. I never would have known about Big Pharma. I never would have known about the central banks. And by the way, last night, I don't know if anybody was watching this, but RFK, I was actually going to watch this. I was going to bring it up, but we can maybe do it another day. But RFK was in the live show with Tucker Carlson last night. And Tucker asked him, which former president is Trump most like? And RFK said, Andrew Jackson. And I think they said a couple more things, but his main reason was because Andrew Jackson was the last president to take down the central banks. And I forget what the exact words that's what it was. RFK said the motivation to dismantle the central banks. So Trump from day one has wanted to shut down the central banks. And I'm going to talk about my predictions here in a sec. I know we're kind of going around everywhere right now, but I mean, that's the beauty of the show. Oh yeah, we got a lot of chats here from Atlantis, but they got a dog in their profile picture, so we're gonna entertain it. Atlantis says, "Isn't the entire existence of Bitcoin that it's to protect you from poor monetary system?" Yeah, I would say so. As in, money printing is expected, which higher inflation is to come soon. This isn't a good thing. Continued. Who's buying Bitcoin at 75K? Are you? Yes. Of course. I'm not buying one Bitcoin, but every time I have any sort of fake money, I exchange it for real money. Or large companies, honestly. I'd like to understand the Bitcoin correlation to inflation. When inflation was at its peak, Bitcoin, well, I mean, it also depends what you're using for your inflation metrics. Like if you're listening to the bullshit numbers that they tell you on CBC, CNN, then yeah, maybe inflation peaked a while ago. But if you go to the fucking grocery store, we're peaking by the week here. One bag of chips here in Canada, one big bag of chips, $8 in a gas station. $8. So I kind of see what you're saying, but here, inflation is signs of weakening or weakling coming down, which brought Bitcoin to lows. But now we are seeing Bitcoin rise. Isn't this a bad sign for average Americans? I mean, yeah, Bitcoin is like, it's as perfect as Bitcoin. It's as close to perfect as it can be. It's not going to disperse perfect equalization between everybody. Nobody ever said it was going to. The whole point of Bitcoin is to remove the central banks, to separate money from state, to get rid of the central banks. That's the whole point of Bitcoin. And it's the central banks, it's a small group of people who got us here with inflation because they had access to a money printer. With fiat, with centralized monetary systems, with central banks, they create money out of thin air. They don't even have to fucking print it anymore. They just add zeros on their computers. That's the problem. That's the problem. And with Bitcoin, you cannot print Bitcoin. Trump can't print Bitcoin. Vladimir Putin can't print Bitcoin. Michael Saylor can't print Bitcoin. That's not the point of it. And I hope Atlantis is still in the chat here. But what else was I going to say on that? It's bad for the average American who are saving in fiat. If you're either holding your money in fiat, your savings in fiat, or if you don't have any savings, yes, it's going to be very bad for you for a while. Bitcoin can't cure everything. But if you're choosing to either save in Bitcoin, like if you have any excess cash, you put it into Bitcoin, that's going to protect your purchasing power through the inflation. And if you have assets, if you have real estate, if you have stocks, if you have bonds, if you have any sort of asset, gold, silver, it's been going up with inflation. But cash has not. So if you're saving in cash and fiat, you're going to get smoked. No president's going to be able to change that. There's $36 trillion in debt, billions of dollars in interest every day. There's no stopping it. It cannot be stopped. It's a debt spiral. So the only thing, and this is the whole point of this show, this channel, is to try to explain that to people, that you should be saving your energy, your time and energy in Bitcoin. Kyle, nation state adoption it's not even close to priced in yet. It's not even close to being priced in yet at all. Stephen Curran. I thought it was Steve Curry was in the house today, or is it Steve? Steve Curry? No, who am I thinking of? Steve Curry. Stephen Curry. Who's the basketball player? I don't know. That looks like an NBA player named Stephen Curry. I don't know. I'm out of the sports world for the most part, other than golf. Anyways, good to see you, Stephen. Good. I'm glad you could join us today. Aquila, what is your forecast for Bitcoin by the end of the year? I forget what prediction I gave. Somebody asked 2025. I said I would be very surprised if it didn't hit 250,000. But if it went to 1 million, I wouldn't be surprised. The only thing that would surprise me now, after everything we've gone through, after the money printer's been fucking full cylinders for the last couple of years, and now Trump in the White House, I would be surprised if we end 2025 below $100,000. Like, for real. It could be 150. It could be 5 million. I don't have a clue. The only thing that I know is that the dollar is going to continue to lose value. There's nothing that can turn it around right now. The fiat dollar is going to lose value, and Bitcoin's going to go up forever. So timeframes, price forecasts, completely irrelevant. The only thing you need to be focused on is getting as many sats as you possibly can. Kyle says, come on, people, smash that like button and subscribe. He's not wrong. Channel's been buzzing. I mean, I don't think it's any, like, I'm just an average person here, but I think people like the channel because we interact on here. It's a very interactive channel, but also because it's just common sense. That's what Bitcoin is. Bitcoin is just how things should be. It's logic. And I think that that's why Trump performed as well as he did. He says a lot of crazy things. He has good policies, but nobody cares about that. But for the most part, I think people really like him because he's logical. It's common sense. Like, for somebody to say that men should not be participating in women's sports, that's common sense. The male body and the female body are built very differently. And not only is it not fair to women, but it's extremely dangerous. And that has been normalized by the other side of things. People are scared to say that that's wrong. So whenever you have a voice, whenever you're telling the truth to people recognize that and appreciate that, because we've just been fed so much bullshit through our entire lives that people crave truth. So, and logic. So yeah, I agree, Kyle. Smash the like, subscribe. If you're a Bitcoiner, send some money to our, wow, this is hard. Arnie. He's sleeping. That's Arnie's wallet. So you can send him 5 sats. You can send him 5,000 sats. That's the best way to support the show. But don't be afraid to subscribe while you're here watching. We do the show every morning at 9 a.m. Eastern time, usually at our house, but we're in a different location today. Kamala about to concede. Holy shit. Okay, I don't think I'm going to be able to get through all these comments here. Sorry, folks. Okay, let's Noah. Okay, what yeah, I'm way behind here. Jason says, I have very little hope for anyone in Canadian government to pass anything that actually benefits the citizens. I agree. But, we got to have hope. And one day soon we'll have somebody who likes Canada in office. So hopefully anyways. The Tahini's dude. Yeah, that's who that was. Fellow Bitcoiner, very nice person. If you live in Canada, go eat some nice food in his restaurants. Yes. I'd like to have him on the show sometime, actually, or have them sponsor the show. But I'd like to just chat with him because he seems like a very down-to-earth, very knowledgeable hardworking guy, and we need more of people like him. Yeah, home mining regulation. I don't think we need any more regulation, but we should be pushing home miners. Liberals in Canada are panicking. Are they ever? Oh my God, it's beautiful to watch. And that's the other thing too. It's like we've been through hell. We've been called a bunch of names. We've been called Nazis, fascists, sexist, whatever you want to call us. We've taken a lot of shit. Idiots, crazy, anti-vaxxers. But I mean, I don't ever expect anybody to apologize to me. I would like to see some repercussions from the government, from citizens. I would like to see a big lawsuit against the government. But in terms of citizens, like, we just have to keep in mind here, red, left, we're all just humans at the end of the day. And I think that we have a big opportunity right now to change things and not rub it in, not celebrate, not be name calling, but just we're all here. And I think that we have the right people, and we have adults in the room now who are going to make decisions that benefit us. And if we can actually just focus on building together, because the one thing the government's done really well for many years now is divide. That's their strategy, divide and conquer. And I think the left, or the Democrats, or the liberals, or whatever you want to call them, they have made it very difficult on us. And it feels like we should be returning the favor right now, but I would much rather just go forth and build together, and just so people can understand that it's not left versus right. It's not me versus you. It's us versus centralized parties, governments, big governments, central banks, who literally want to destroy our lives. And they have us fighting against each other day in and day out. And I think that if we take the stance of unity, that's what we need more than anything else. We need a new currency that's backed by something, by energy, which is Bitcoin. And we need for people to understand that it's not left versus right. We're all together in this whole thing. Oh, geez, this is a tough one. Kaplata. I mean, we might just do a 2-hour show today. Whatever. We got time, AR? We got time if you got time. Kaplata says, tried to sell a piece of real estate for Bitcoin back in August last year. Other family members blocked me from selling my stake in the property. Really hard not to hate every single one of them now. I don't know what to tell you. Oh, what did I do there? That is shitty. But, I mean, I will tell you what to think about that, because it's my show. I would say move on as fast as you can from that. Your other families your family members did not mean any sort of harm to you. I think that they probably just don't have the knowledge that you did. And I mean, you probably easily could have gone against them and just did it. I don't know your circumstances, but I mean, if my family told me not to do something and I wanted to do it, I would probably do it. But I don't know your circumstances. But the other thing I would say is, don't spend too much time and energy dwelling on that. Just be grateful and thankful that you're here today, and that you even can buy Bitcoin right now. The fact that you can still exchange fiat money for Bitcoin, that's the biggest blessing you could ever ask for. And yes, you could have had more, but you still can get it, right? Bitcoin, it's not like Bitcoin shut down or you can't buy it anymore. You'll have less sats, of course, but just focus your time and energy on building, on positive things, and just focus on earning sats. You can't go back and change that. So don't spend any time and energy worrying about that. Approaching 76K. Where are we at right now? Let's take a quick peek here. $75,823. Another all-time high. Brennan says, I disagree on MicroStrategy volatility. His goal is a bond. I think that you're right. I think that he also wants volatility, though, in terms of his stock price. But I do think that, you know, as this whole thing evolves, he's going to offer more products. So he's going to have a bond, and he's talked about this before. But he's going to have a product where you can buy it for, you know, you might get 10%. It might be much lower risk, but you don't have the same ceiling on it. So I think that over time, MicroStrategy is going to have a variety of different product offerings, and a bond will absolutely be one of them, where you can buy a Bitcoin bond and you can say, you know, 10%, you get 10% a year on it, or 15%. But then there's going to be other products like the stock, like convertible debt, and probably beyond that. I'm sure he's going to be lending Bitcoin out to other companies and countries one day. Wyatt Entertainment says MicroStrategy only has $50 billion market cap and it outperforms Bitcoin. Huge potential. I agree with that. I'm a big fan of MicroStrategy, and I'm not going to ever turn this. I still think MicroStrategy is very fiat, although there are 100% Bitcoin. They have a very clear strategy, very transparent. It is still very fiat. And what I mean by that is, if things shut down tomorrow, if there was a cyber attack, or if there was a 10-day power outage, you wouldn't know how much Bitcoin or how much MicroStrategy shares you had. Because how the fiat system works is there's probably 5 different owners of that share. And yes, you can take it out, you can cash it out, you can get the proceeds of that, but you don't own those MicroStrategy shares. You don't have custody of them. There's a risk there. Somebody else is holding those for you. And somebody else is holding the Bitcoin that are attached to those shares. So it's good for certain things, but without a doubt, Bitcoin in self-custody, non-KYC, if you can get it, is the best option for you there. Up 25% today, MicroStrategy. This is the day where I should be like glued to my phone, and I've hardly been on it at all. Oh yeah, 15% up today, $260, which before the stock split would have been $2,600 per stock. So it's looking like a pretty good move that they did the stock split there. What else do we have here? There's some good comments here. Timber Crasher. Get to 1 million or 10 million sats now or never get there. Agree with that. Your kids will thank you. Put it into cold storage, study Bitcoin, provide real value, and buy more Bitcoin. I mean, we could wrap up the whole show with that comment there. This is a question that a lot of people ask. And I think that if they don't ask, they're thinking about it. And that is that people could take out a loan to get a whole coin if it does come, but it does come with risks, or if they had savings or past investments, they could convert it to Bitcoin. Yeah, absolutely. But taking on a loan, I think if you are somebody in a position to take on debt to buy Bitcoin, I do think that there's a very responsible amount of Bitcoin that you could, or debt that you could take on to buy Bitcoin. And the only thing I would say on that is don't over leverage for one, but also like the further that loan is, like if you can get a fixed rate of like 5% or 7% over like 5 or 10 years, the longer the term of that loan, the better it is, because then you're going to be able to get through the highs and lows on it, right? And so if you just think like you're paying 7% interest per year, and Bitcoin has been on average 50% up a year, so the spread there is about 43% a year. If you can stretch out the loan, if you can get through the ups and downs, you're probably going to come out ahead. But don't do it with like credit card debt, right? That's how you get wrecked. I mean, I shouldn't need to say that, but you know, Jared, not a new face, but a rare face. America is back. God bless the USA. Hey, Arn. Nice Noise says, do you think we're going to have the opposite of last cycle? Instead of from Bitcoin altcoins, we're going to have altcoins? Absolutely. Everything's going to flow into Bitcoin. Stocks, bonds, fiat, altcoins, everything's going to flow into Bitcoin and MicroStrategy. And for those paying attention, Semler Scientific. Nick into it. It's a beautiful day to be a Bitcoiner. Is it ever? Hey, look at this. Jason says, good luck tomorrow. Have a brew ski on me. Thank you, my friend. That's about the cost of a beer here in Canada, pretty much. $13.99. Nah, probably about half that, but I'll get a couple. Thank you, Jason. I very, very, very much appreciate that. I wish you could make it out tomorrow, but it sounds like you can't. But next time. This is not going to be the last Bitcoin meetup we have here in Regina, or that I'm at anyways. Okay, what else? Yeah, I cannot get through all these comments, I don't think here. I'm sorry. I want to talk about a couple things, and then we will, if we got time, we'll say we're going to do a 2-hour show today. Arnie's getting restless. I'm getting restless. But let's go for a 2-hour show. So what I want to talk about here is I titled this show "A Great Day for Bitcoiners," and I know we've spent an hour and a half already talking about it in different roundabout ways. But I think that I was going to call it a great day for Bitcoin, but it's not, because Bitcoin doesn't care who the president is. Bitcoin doesn't care who owns it. Bitcoin doesn't care about anything. Bitcoin is just code. And every 10 minutes, there's a new block with a bunch of transactions in it. And every 10 minutes, that block, the new updated version of that ledger, gets broadcast to 20,000 Bitcoin nodes around the world. So Bitcoin doesn't care. This is not a good day for Bitcoin. It's a good day for Bitcoiners. And, you know, you think about Ross. You think about a guy who's been in prison for 8 years now for facilitating. So it's so wrong that he spent this amount of time in prison. But he is a Bitcoiner. He embodies Bitcoin. And I think a lot of people, especially here watching this chat, like the one thing I think that we all have in common with Bitcoin and why it is such a great day for Bitcoiners. No. Arnie's got a plastic bottle now, so it could get noisy here. He's trying to be quiet with it, but he's not that quiet. But the thing that we all kind of have in common with each other and with Bitcoin is that two things. Anti-establishment, that's kind of what Bitcoin was designed to do. And that's what a lot of people here are here for. And the other thing there is the building part of things. Like I talked about getting rid of the whole left and right narrative, focusing on the future, building for the future. But that's two things for me that really stand out in terms of Bitcoiners, is the anti-establishment, which perfect representation of that is Trump. Could not ask for a better guy in a position than Trump, and his team too. So anti-establishment and builders. That's who is in charge of the US. That's who's in charge of the most influential country on earth right now, is people who are anti-establishment and people who are builders. And I think what we're about to unlock here as the US and as the world is abundance. And Bitcoin is the tool that's going to get us there. And we have the right people in charge, adults in the room, who can facilitate this. So my predictions for Bitcoin, for Trump, and I should have wrote these down because I had 4 or 5 of them that I thought were really good. I'll probably only remember 3 of them, but as I talk here, we'll probably be able to refresh a few. So the first one, my prediction for Trump, Bitcoin, his term, how they relate. My first prediction is that he's absolutely going to free Ross on day one. As day one as it could get. I think probably because there's been so much press around it, like more than anything else, probably in history. But I think it'll happen day one, if not, that week. So that's my first prediction. Is I absolutely think that Trump will pardon Ross Albright. And the reason I say that is not just because I like Trump and I like Ross, but like he's gone out of his way. He's working with David Bailey, the head of Bitcoin Magazine. He was at the conference talking about it. Bitcoiners have been talking about it for the last 3 or 4 months since he announced that. And the last tweet he made on October 31st, on Halloween, on Satoshi's The White Paper Day, he sent out a tweet wishing happy 16th birthday to the Bitcoin White Paper. And one of his hashtags that he used was Free Ross Day One. 21, 22, 25 million people saw that tweet. He didn't have to include that hashtag in there, but he did. So I think that's my first prediction, is that he's absolutely going to pardon Ross on day one. The second one here is that leading up to the election here, Trump's been kind of going everywhere. He's been bouncing around. He's been meeting with a whole bunch of people. He's been doing rallies. But two big things that really stood out for me was the time that he met with the miners. So right around the time where Trump said that he was going to, be a Bitcoin friendly president, he met with Riot and he met with CleanSpark. And so I think that the Trump administration, the people on his team there, are going to put a very big emphasis on Bitcoin mining and using all the energy as the guy, what was his name there? We listened to him talk about the mining, but as he said there, like mining has so many benefits to countries like Canada, countries like the US, where there's an absolute abundance of energy. A lot of it gets wasted or it gets sold for almost nothing, but we now have the ability to convert that energy into Bitcoin instantly. No middleman, no power lines, nothing. It converts instantly into, hey, you're going to have to stop that, bud. Converts it instantly into money. So I absolutely think that Trump probably already has some agreements in place with miners, and the US government under Trump will be either subsidizing or working with Riot, CleanSpark, and whoever else to convert all the energy in the US, whether that's solar, wind, hydro, nuclear, or nuclear, whatever you want to call it. All the energy is going to be converted into Bitcoin. Any excess, any wasted is going to be converted into Bitcoin under Trump. And what's that going to lead to? So that's my second prediction, is they're going to go very hard on Bitcoin mining. But the third prediction, which ties into that, is that I think that Trump is going to get rid of federal income taxes by the end of his term. I think he's talked about no tax on tips. He's talked about no tax on Social Security. He's talked about no tax for veterans, no tax on Bitcoin buying and selling. I think he's going to completely wipe out federal taxes. And he's mentioned tariffs, and I think the tariffs are much more relatable for the average person. If he came out and said they're going to replace the federal income taxes with Bitcoin mining, people would think he's a fucking Looney Tune, more than they already do. So I think between tariffs and between Bitcoin mining, I think Trump is going to completely wipe out federal income taxes. So that's number 3. And it's very possible, because what we're going to do there, and just to kind of elaborate, I talk about this on the show all the time, and I have been for a while now, but what's going to happen there is we've been put into this situation with the fiat dollar where we have to pay the tax. We have to fund the government. Human resources have to pay for the government, and a very, very, very fat, bloated, inefficient government at that. So he's going to shrink the government, which ties into this, the tax stuff. He's working with Elon already for the Department of Government Efficiency. But the income taxes, the human resources that we're paying are going to shift to natural resources. So we went from human resources, us paying taxes, us going to work 5 days a week, 40 hours, 45 hours, working 2 or 3 jobs just to eat. That's human resources, but we're going to go into a world with natural resources, where the energy, where the abundance of energy that we have in these countries will pay for the government. So that's number 3. No federal income taxes. I expect that to be done by end of his term minimum. And as a bonus to that, this is going to be 3.5 prediction. But think about that. Think about what that would look like for people. They'd have way more money, way more take-home money. They'd have way less stress. They would know now that this is possible to do. So in November 2028, when we have the next election, do you think if the Democrats say that this was a dumb idea by Trump to get rid of federal income taxes, do you think that that's ever going to go back? Once we get to that point where there's no federal income taxes, just like how when MicroStrategy gets to number 1 on the stock market, it's never going to change. Once they get rid of federal income taxes, they're never coming back for at least hundreds of years. Because if a party comes out and said, hey, this was a dumb idea to get rid of income tax, people are going to be like, what the fuck are you talking about? This is the best 4 years we've ever had. We don't have to spend 30% of our check to pay for the dumbest people on earth to go and argue all day. So once we get there, we're never going back to paying income taxes. That's what we have to understand here, because it wouldn't make sense. Nobody would vote to go back into income taxes. So that's 3.5. And the fourth one, and I might have had one more, but we're going to end the last one with this one, the fourth one. Now I got to remember it. So I don't have any notes here. That's what it was, the currency. So my fourth prediction, probably the boldest one here, is I think that Trump is going to get rid of the central banks, cut ties with the Federal Reserve, and I think that he's going to roll that responsibility that because everybody thinks that the Federal Reserve is run by the government. It's not. It's not federal. They don't have any reserves, and they've had way too much power for the last 100 years. So you cut ties with that. That's the fiat dollar. That's what everything's backed by, is the Federal Reserve. They have the ability to create money out of nothing. So you get rid of that. You roll that into the US Treasury instead. And probably for a while, they'll both coexist. I don't know for how long. I have no idea. But you roll that into the US Treasury and you back the new US dollar. I think that Trump's going to come out with either a new version of the US dollar or some sort of competing. I think it'll be a US dollar because Trump's a big US guy. So they now have the currency, and that currency is going to be backed by energy, by Bitcoin, by gold, maybe, by oil. And so think about that. Just play through that scenario in your head. Get rid of the illusionary dollar, create a new one that's actually backed by something that has real value. Think about how fast you could start paying off your $36 trillion worth of debt when you have one currency that's worth nothing and one currency that is going only up in value. And yes, there will be many things that come with this. There's going to be a lot more transparency because they're going to have to prove that they have those reserves of Bitcoin, their stockpile. They're going to issue a currency off of that. And that's what's going to happen. They're going to pay off their debt with the new US dollar. Because Trump said $36 trillion, we're going to throw him a couple Bitcoins and pay that off. How do you think that that's going to happen? Do you think that one Bitcoin is going to be worth $17 trillion each? No. They're going to create their new currency. It's going to have actual value, and they're going to pay off their currency without any value. So that's what I think is going to happen. I'm going to have to bookmark this. November 6, 2024. And if that happened, could you imagine? Could you imagine what we would unlock? The whole problem with the fiat system, the whole problem with the world that we've been living in, is that they just basically make it as hard as they can for us. They stomp on our necks day after day. And that's why even, I started the show today with I was happy, but I didn't want to celebrate because I just feel like you know, something's coming. It's like knocking on a door, expecting something good, and there's somebody there to punch you in the face right after. That's how we live now. And it shouldn't be like that. It never was like that before until the fiat dollar. And so you get rid of that, everything changes. You unlock so much energy, both from resources and from humans. And that's the world we're moving into now. And it's fucking awesome. So there you go. We got 10 minutes left. We can get through it, Aaron. We can get through it, Aaron. Oh, he's awake now. He's snoozing. Arnie. He's camera shy. He's camera shy. Okay, so let's get through his comments here. Then we're going to wrap up for the day. All right. ABC 212 says, I want an EV, but the spyware gives zero control of privacy. 100%. The nice thing about that, though, is I've been in a Tesla before, which, you know, as a Canadian, as a small town guy, it's a pretty big flex. I rode in a Tesla taxi one time. But for those who have never been in a Tesla before, the power of like stored like a battery, they use lithium, I think, in Teslas, but the power of that, the 0 to 60, when there's no delay of a combustion engine, is incredible. And the technology there is incredible. And I think that's all going to carry forward. It might not be powered by lithium. It might be powered by something else. And we're moving into a decentralized world. We're moving into an open source world. Open source world. So yes, this technology exists. It's been captured by bad people. Those bad people are going to fade away. And we're going to have electric vehicles or some sort of, you know, outside of combustion engines that's going to have all the same stuff. It's going to have zero spyware. You're going to be the one who owns that data, where you went to, how much you used in this day, you know, all that kind of stuff. It's going to track you, but you're going to have access to that. Only you. It's not going to be sent to GM. It's not going to be sent to your insurance provider. It's not going to be sold by them on your behalf. You're going to own that data. So, I mean, we could sit here for a 3-hour show probably and talk about how good the future is going to be, but just understand kind of like a big picture thing here is that we're moving away from the centralized world. We're moving away from the control structure. We're moving away from the evil. And all of that, all the tracking, all the privacy, all that kind of stuff ties into that old world. And we're moving out of it. And it's kind of already here. It's just it's not very mainstream yet, right? Listen to the bass go boom, explosion. Got the TV on here in the back. I have no idea if you can hear it or not, but got some LL Cool J playing. All right, what else we got here? We won't be talking about Bitcoin in the future. We'll be talking about sats. Yes, and understand the implications of that. When we move to a sat standard, we kind of already are there. But when they start pricing, like when you look on CoinGecko and it shows you the price of one sat, that means we're going to be extremely wealthy. And it's probably not going to take that long either. Yeah, absolutely. ABC. One sat can be divided in without a hard fork. That's what people fail to understand. It's like, we can't print money. We're going to run out of money. No, you divide one sat into a million more microsats or whatever it is. And one sat today is going to be worth, it's the exact same sat that is going to be in 100 years from now when the whole energy of the earth is going to be competing to mine one sat. It's the exact same thing today. It's just that everything hasn't been repriced into that yet. But it will, because it's just a time chain. It's Bitcoin Ben calls it a countdown. That's exactly what it is. And the sooner people can understand that, the more opportunity there is. Holy, there's a lot of new faces in here today. Maybe you should start doing afternoon shows. If you're watching this for the first time, we do the show every morning at 9 a.m. Eastern time. So some of you, all of you, stop by. And there's a lot of people who are usually here that aren't here today. So this has been a fun show. Nowhere Man says, I started buying a week ago. Well, get on ya. a week ago is going to be light years ahead of the average person. I live in Brazil and minimum wage here is $250. I only understand Bitcoin a few weeks ago and started buying it now. I hope I can get out of this mess I'm in. Good on you, my friend. This is what I would suggest to you, Nowhere Man. This would be my recommendation to you. Whatever you do, you could have any skill out there, whatever it is. I don't know. Think of anything. Think about what you like talking about. Think about this. If somebody handed you a microphone, if you're at an event and somebody handed you a microphone and said, you got to go up on stage, we got to fill this time, you got half an hour. What would you talk about? So this is for Nowhere Man. This is for everybody watching this right now and later. What would you talk about? And you understand where we're going here. We're going away from the human resources. We're going away from the very labor intensive jobs. Those are going to be replaced by natural resources in the form of Bitcoin mining and by robotics. So our society is going to look completely different in 10 years from now, aside from the money. But you got to start thinking ahead. You got to start getting ready for that. So what I would suggest to you is I would get a nostr account, get a public key, a private key, go to nostrudel.ninja, get an account, start posting on there a couple times a day. And you'll be amazed by, because it's very similar to like a Twitter right now. That's kind of the early days of nostr. It's going to be much more. It's basically like the new internet. That's what nostr is. It's a protocol just like the internet. But you can go on there and instead of people liking your video or liking your post, sharing it, commenting on it, the peak fiat illusion, all those metrics, people can send you real value. They can send you Bitcoin. If you take a picture, if you post a video, if you make a long form post and somebody else out there gets any sort of value from it, they can send you Bitcoin instantly. Nobody's permission. They can send it to Brazil. I can send you sats right now on nostr to Brazil without any permission, any banks involved. It's powerful. And that's going to unlock a whole new economy of people. And that's, we're moving into that attention economy. I think that most people are aware of that, but most people aren't acting on that yet. So if you are new to this show, if you just listen to what I said about nostr, I want you to send me an email today. All my contact info is in the description below. Shoot me an email and said, I heard you talking about nostr. I heard you talking about the guy from Brazil. I heard you talking about the attention economy. Just say, I want to learn a little bit more. And I'll send you a few videos, a few links, and you can go there. And if you have any questions, you can get back to me. But that's what I'm willing to do because I really want people to start taking this stuff seriously. It is the future. It's where we're going to. And the sooner you realize that, the sooner you start preparing for that, the better off you're going to be when we get there. Steph Curry. That's what I was looking for. I guess his name is actually Stephen Curry, but that's why it sounded so awkward. M68 TV and run a Bitcoin node. I don't know what we were talking about there, but yes, absolutely run a Bitcoin node. Okay, what else do we have here? We got 2 more minutes. Final countdown. Lots of chats to get through here. I'm gonna focus on we got Duchess here. What a great day for Bitcoin yesterday and today. But Duchess is a Bitcoin journeyman, so shout out to you for that. I mean, I've done enough ads on the show today. But last ad of the day. If you have been watching this channel, if you've been learning anything, if you've been enjoying it, getting any sort of value from it, I don't turn my ads on for the live shows because I don't want any interruptions. I want the best possible user experience. And I sacrifice a lot. I shouldn't say a lot, but a decent amount of monthly income from that. So the one thing I would ask, if that sounds like you, and if you do have a couple dollars to spare each month, consider joining as a Bitcoin journeyman like Duchess here. You get a little logo there. It's $3 a month Canadian, which is like 50 cents American, I think. It's a little bit more, but very insignificant. And shout out to the Bitcoin journeymen who have been doing that. I would much rather that way. That's more of like a value for value thing instead of hurting people's experience here with ads. So that's what I would ask today. Let's get a few new people signing up as a Bitcoin Journeyman today. That's the goal. 2-hour show for free. 2-hour show. And it's good karma too. Jay Green, that's another new face in the chat. Good to see you, my friend. Hopefully some of these people stick around. Okay, what else we got here? There we go. M. Babs, great commentary, new sub and thumbs up. Thank you. MicroStrategy is already racing to be the first bank. They're going to be the first bank, and they're going to basically take over the world here, I think. But the thing to keep in mind there is, like, most people hear that and they're like, isn't the point of Bitcoin to get rid of the banks? No. The point of Bitcoin is to separate money from state, to separate money from the central banks. Banks will exist. Some banks will fail because they're dumb, but there'll be a lot of banks in the future, and they'll all hold Bitcoin. They're going to want your Bitcoin. And instead of having to sell your Bitcoin and pay taxes on that and lose Bitcoin, you're going to be able to lend against it. And banks are going to want your Bitcoin. That's going to be their main reserve. So you're going to get favorable interest rates lending to a bank. And then you can take out the new US dollar. You can go buy stuff with that, but you never sell your Bitcoin. So MicroStrategy is going to be the biggest bank because nobody's ever going to catch them. And the unlock that they're going to have from that is going to be bigger than anybody could ever imagine. Oh, Elizabeth Warren was reelected. I didn't see that. I thought it was a pretty close race there. I mean, yes, Trump won. I think there was probably a lot of funny business that still happened. I don't think that they had enough funny business to be able to catch him this time. So, you know, things like New York, I still think that New York, in a fair world, fair election, Trump would win New York. Like, just use your eyes, use your ears, use your logic. So even though they couldn't manufacture enough votes this time around, I mean, just the simple fact that you don't need a fucking voter ID to vote in the US is insane. Trump won. He got more votes, yes, but it's still not a fair election. I think we can all agree on that. And I think that that's something that we should be pursuing in the future is fairness. And we have the tools to do it. We already have the tools to do it. Sorry, I'm seeing a lot of Caspa chat in the chat, which I'm not even going to entertain. Eric, Stack Sats, great advice. Noah says, Jory, you must be referencing David Webb's The Great Taking documentary regarding the third-party risk with MicroStrategy. I haven't seen it or heard of it, but I mean, it's the beauty of Bitcoin is it's the only asset that you can actually own, right? It's the only asset that you can actually own. I mean, besides cash, gold, silver. But it's the only one that you can truly own because somebody can break into your house and take your gold. Nobody can break into your head and take your 12 words. So you get full custody of it. And when you're buying MicroStrategy, not only do you not hold the Bitcoin, but you don't own the share either. So it's like double risk. Do I trust Sailor? Yes. Do I trust the system? Do I trust the fact that they are, not going to shut things down? I don't know. I think if Kamala won, I'd feel a lot different about that. But she didn't, so fuck her. Boom me. Shout out to the Semler crew. Yes, we've been talking about Semler on this channel for a very long time. I said Semler's very underrated, and I think that it's going to get, it's kind of the hidden gem right now. A lot of people in Bitcoin who are paying attention to this stuff know about MicroStrategy, but Semler is one that you can get for, they have over 1,000 Bitcoin now. Exactly. This is a great comment from Jets. It says Bitcoin is just a protocol like TCP/IP. It just exists. It's not going up. Right. Bitcoin's not going up. Bitcoin's repricing everything. And it's not just fiat that's dying. Fiat was the old way to measure assets. Bitcoin is the new way to measure assets. And so everything is just going to continue to fall in comparison to Bitcoin. It's just repricing everything. This is a perfect comment here. It's just a protocol. And it's open source too, which is a beautiful thing. Whereas anybody can go in and verify the code. Everything's going to be open source, hopefully. That's what we're working towards anyways. Okay, we got to go. I don't want to make Arnie wait any longer here. So we're going to shut off the, we're going to shut things. Oh, Kyle's from Halifax. Shout out to Kyle. Hopefully you stick around, Kyle. One of my favorite places on earth is Nova Scotia. Been there a couple times now. In Nova Scotia, we played Cabot Links and we played Cabot Cliffs, and I cannot wait to get back to Nova Scotia. Such a beautiful place. That and PEI. Okay, I apologize. I did my best here to try to get through all the comments, and over 2 hours here, but that's okay. I mean, there's nothing I would rather be doing, truly. Then there's no place I would rather be. There's no time I would rather be born in. Everything's good. Just focus your time and energy on Bitcoin. Learn as much as you can, earn as much as you can, meet as many people as you can. That's why things like Living in the Future community are so incredibly valuable. Not just to talk back and forth, but there's going to be so many ventures and opportunities that come from this. Because we're kind of like the, you know, the club that they talk about, like it's one big club and you're not in it. Bitcoiners kind of are that right now, but I think it's going to be much different because nobody has the ability to print Bitcoin. That's the main difference there. But you have an opportunity now to not just buy Bitcoin and try to get 20 million sats or to whatever you're trying to get to. That's not the point of this whole thing. You're not going to get 20 million sats, retire, and then start earning fiat and buy, you know, you're not going to go back into that world. So understand where you are, understand how valuable Bitcoin is, understand the importance of having a community and network, and you can grow with this whole thing. You can hit your card up to this industry that's going to blow through the whole fucking world in this next decade. And the more people you have within your network, Bitcoiners, the faster you can leave that fiat system. So I highly encourage, if you're a new viewer, if you've been watching for a while, I just want people to join this. And if you don't like it, you join the Signal chat for a couple weeks or a month, you cancel it. It is what it is. But I really want people to do it. And you're going to be part of the multi-generational wealth course too, which I think is going to be monumental for anybody with any sort of Bitcoin right now. It's not focused on like how to buy, how to send, the basic stuff. It's for people who have a decent amount of Bitcoin and want to make sure they have that Bitcoin in 20 years. So it's going to be an 8 or 10 part series. We're going to do one a week and you're going to get access to that. So it's $5 a month. You join the community, you get access to all the videos, the full shows, and you get access to the multi-generational wealth course. So that's my plea to you. And if you don't have the money for that, I totally understand. Times are fucking hard right now. So consider liking the show then. Do what you can to help grow this channel, to get, you know, a voice, logical voice around Bitcoin, positive voice around Bitcoin out in front of more people. Hey, Steven. Almost missed you here. Another one of our Bitcoin journeymen, another one of our Irish folks. Wise from PEI. All right. Well, thanks everybody once again. Consider joining. We got a lot of amazing people in there. Truly. About 70, 75 people in there, and it's going to be growing a lot. So why wait? Have yourselves an amazing hump day. Is it hump day today? Is it Wednesday? Yeah, it's Wednesday. Happy hump day. Forgot to say that at the start of the show. But thanks for being here. Thanks for stopping by. And thanks for being part of the chat today. We definitely set a record we hit an all-time high in Bitcoin. We got our guy in the White House. We hit an all-time high in viewers today. And we hit an all-time high in the chat. So some would say it was a pretty good day. But me and Arnie got to go to the bathroom. So we'll be back here tomorrow, same time, 1 o'clock, 2 p.m. Eastern. Let's have another good show tomorrow. This is a lot of fun. Thanks again. We'll see you right back here tomorrow, midday. Bye-bye.